So once upon a time, there was a little boy. He was 10 years old, living in a loving family, 2-parent home, gave him everything he wanted, nurtured him, gave him everything he could possibly need emotionally, spiritually, and physically and monetarily. But you know what? This kid didn't care because he didn't think his parents got him. He didn't feel that his parents understood his feelings, and therefore he didn't have to do what his parents told him to do. And so he acted out and did whatever he wanted. The parents said, hey, you know what? We should try harder. So they continued to reward bad behavior. Cake, ice cream, stay up late at night. It didn't matter. Whatever you want, kid, you got it, because we're going to make sure that you are comfortable in your skin and all of this good stuff. Would anyone be surprised that this kid acted out and was mean and nasty to his parents and revolted? Would anyone be surprised about that? Then why is anyone surprised about this? Exactly. So I guess by now you know what I'm going to talk about. Hi, my name is Kyle, and we are going to talk about the $300 million that Foot Locker and Walmart said they're going to invest into racial injustice causes, only to have their stores looted because of said racial injustice causes. And so if this is your first time here, then please consider hitting that like and subscribe button and that bell icon so you don't miss any future content. Also, there's a join button there if you want to help support this channel. You can click there to find out how to do just that. And so in this video, very simply put, I'm going to go over this article here in thepostmillennial.com. The title of it is Walmart Foot Locker donate $300 million to racial justice, get looted during racial justice riot. This came out April the 12th, and this is in Minneapolis. So I'm going to talk about this particular article in particular, but I'm also going to talk about some of the things in here that are said, which are the reason why people are looting. In the opening of this video, I said, look, there's this kid, right? He's bad. His parents love him, treat him well, provide everything for him, loving family. But this kid, in his own mind, doesn't think that his parents get him. He feels they don't love him. They feel that he's mistreated, even though the exact opposite is true. But the parents, instead of being parents, what do? They reward the bad behavior that this kid does because he's acting out. And therefore, what's going to happen? The kid's going to continue to act out because he's not going to appreciate anything, because there is no system in place to correct bad behavior. And right here, what's happening here in America is that people of a certain generation, and it's not just black people, it's people of an elitist class in their mind, where they think that they are victimized. They become themselves elitists because they are victims. They feel that because of that situation, they can act out because everyone else around them is at fault. They're the ones who are the target. And therefore, them acting out, them robbing stores, them looting, them resisting police is a direct example or a direct relationship to their mindset that they have the right to do that because they have to do something to fix their situation, because the system is systemically racist, or whatever you want to put in there in terms of ism. That is the situation that causes unrest, and that ends up having situations like this at Foot Locker in Minneapolis, and also Walmart. It says here, back in June of 2020, CEO Richard Johnson of Foot Locker penned a letter committing the company to $200 million over the next 5 years to fight racial injustice. Sounds good, I guess. This news was perhaps lost on those who were looting Foot Locker stores on Sunday night. Here's the thing, racial injustice. Okay, I'm with you on that, but you need to define, what are you talking about when you say racial injustice? First of all, I don't know very many laws in this country that are racially biased, that target a particular race of people in a negative fashion. If there is, then we can identify those, correct those, get them off the books, or fix them. Outside of things like, you hear redlining a lot, when you hear about systemic racism, and we'll talk about systemic racism a little bit later. But that is a situation that's been corrected over the years from FDR policies during the New Deal, when they would push people into certain areas, the housing rate would go down, and it was a bad situation, no doubt. And so those kind of practices were bad, but at the same time, Those were policies that the Democrat Party insisted on doing early on, and in some ways keep those in place to this very day, even though they want to turn around and say that systemic racism is there. Well, if it's there simply through the policies of the Democrat Party. So if we're going to talk about racial injustice, well, how about we defund the Democrat National Committee? How about that? If you define it in those kind of terms, then I'm all on board. If you want to say racial injustice in the terms of, let's say, Black parents being in the home, a father being in the home, how about that? Because what ends up happening there is if we have two parents in the home, nuclear family, statistics show overwhelmingly that that Black kid, any kid for that matter, excels exceptionally better. And so, but I guarantee you that $200 million that Foot Locker put in, I guarantee you had nothing to do with raising families, getting values into the home, identifying a culture that is divisive, that is toxic. I'm talking about the Black thug culture that is denigrating this society. I guarantee you it has nothing to do with any of that at all. And what's happening? The people aren't getting the message, and they're turning right around and then victimizing the people who's actually helping them. And so what happens? What happens now? All this does is lead to resentment on both sides. You have white people that say, hey, we're giving money on this situation. They don't seem to appreciate it. And then you have Black people who say, you're not giving us enough, so we're going to rob you. And so let's go on here. This is from Liz Sawyer on Twitter. Says several businesses around Brooklyn Center Walmart are completely destroyed. Police rolled up and made some arrests as young men ran from buildings carrying stolen goods. Foot Locker, T-Mobile, and a New York men's clothing store all completely destroyed. It says here inside the Brooklyn Center. You can play some of this. Inside, we have pictures of people looting the store. It's empty. And how much money is Foot Locker now going to put into this now that they've actually gone into and taken money out of the store? So it's on top of everything they've already done, $200 million, plus whatever damages are lost on this. And I'm pretty sure this is a private business. I'm sure it's a franchise. I'm sure there's an owner who has that's not going to help him or her for that matter. And for all you know, it could be a person that's a Black person who owns this business. For all you know, they don't care. Has nothing to do with that. It has to do with using victimization as an excuse to go out and commit crimes. And that's all this is. And it's not doing anything for racial injustice. If you want to phrase it in the term that they want to phrase it. That's here inside the Brooklyn Center Foot Locker. Crowds are not dispersing. Keep driving around and move from storefront to storefront while 3 to 5 cops drive up with a warning and then disappear again where looters go back into the stores. So you have cops coming up there, tooting their lights, whatever, and saying, hey, get out of here, whatever, drive off. They come back in after they're gone and do more looting. So there is no enforcement here at all. And in terms of enforcement, we did a video last year, which was a commentary on Thomas Sowell's approach to how to stop a riot. Take a look at that video. It's pretty quick. I'll leave a link right above here. But in that video, Thomas Sowell tells us exactly how to stop a riot. It's not rocket science. Says here, tensions were already on edge because of the ongoing trial of ex-Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin, who was on trial for the murder of George Floyd while in his custody. And says here that we recognize that Black culture plays a pivotal role in shaping sneaker culture. I guess this is the CEO of Foot Locker. The foundation of our business at Foot Locker Incorporated, we believe we have an obligation to add our voice and actions to drive meaningful and lasting change across our company and within the communities we serve. That sounds good. Talks about the $200 million he's going to give into the Black community through economic development and education. That sounds good, but I would love to see a syllabus of that. And what is the effectiveness of that? Because I'm hearing a lot of stuff about giving money to these causes, education and so forth, and nothing ever gets done. Nothing ever gets better. To me, it's almost just like a memo out to the media for an advertising for your company to say you're doing something without actually doing something. And that's all I think some of these things are. I mean, press releases for some of these companies is just totally lip service of promises made and promises never kept, or promises made and their attempt to make those promises are horrible policies based on horrible narratives. And I mean by that is systemic racism. It mentions it right here. Because we want to address systemic racism in society head on and accelerate change. Okay, so that's the problem right there. This systemic racism thing right here is the problem. You have the wrong assumption. This whole approach is based on a invalid, incorrect lie of an assumption, because systemic racism is not reality. Is not reality. And the thing about that is once you have something like that is totally fake on this foundation, nothing can be sustained on top of that foundation, because it's built on a lie, a house of cards. Exactly what systemic racism is. It's a red herring. It's a buzzword. It's terms that people think is true, but it's not true. They take anecdotal evidence that they see on the news, that the news puts out there, so we can think in our mind, oh, well, black people must be really oppressed. But they don't show them the FBI statistics of what's actually happening. They don't show them the corruption within black communities with elected leaders. Take money that's supposed to go to the communities, go into their pockets. They don't show them all the race baiting that happens just so they can have an issue and go to leaders and totally leave the people high and dry. That is what's going on with so-called systemic racism. I'm going to do another video on this, broaden this topic out a little bit more. But at the end of the day, it's just for show. It's just so they can use this to continue the victimhood mentality so that people can continue to feel upset, oppressed, keep lashing out, and all of these things can help drive a narrative where people can continue to take advantage of these communities. Because once people say, you know what, enough's enough, we're going to look to ourselves, we're going to look to accountability, we're going to look to strong families, we're going to look to moral values, we're going to look to having a family structure that's going to be supportive and stop blaming other people. We're going to take advantage of opportunities that are right there in front of us, that other people who come across from the ocean or over the border, even southern and northern border, come across, take advantage of. Where people who've been in this country for generations upon generations upon generations, I'm talking about black Americans, and have not gotten nearly as far as people who come across from Kenya, Nigeria, coming across from other parts around the world, who thrive in this country because they take advantage of what's here. That is one thing that I saw when I was in college. I went to an HBCU, a historically black college university, and I saw that the Nigerians who would come over here to America and would come over to our school were totally different than the black people that I knew. In a lot of ways, they resented a lot of us because they felt that we were not taking advantage of what was going on. And that was interesting to me. They had a different style, different culture, different work ethic, and different mentality of what life is and what you can get out of life. And that's not all people. Okay, I'm just saying in general, that was from my experience. It's even worse today. And so that statement about systemic racism came from CEO Doug McMillon of Walmart. He goes on to say, Walmart and the Walmart Foundation are committing $100 million to create a new center on racial equity. What does that mean? Through this $100 million commitment, the center will support philanthropic initiatives that align with 4 key areas: the nation's financial, healthcare, education, and criminal justice systems. And what's interesting is I find that last statement there, and criminal justice systems, fairly interesting considering the context of what this particular video is about. So the important thing is this: what do you think? Do you think, like me, that systemic racism is nothing more than a red herring, a boogeyman, theoretical, esoteric statement, topic, just to get people up in arms, outraged, and more importantly, thinking themselves as victims? And also, what do you think about what I said before about this victimization leading to more internal elitism, thinking that you can go out and do and act out any way you want, which does nothing more than cause more problems, because it's just going to cause more interactions with police, more crime, more violence, and more internal strife and keeping you down. Let me know in the comments below what you think about that. I'd be curious to know what you think. And if you like what we do in this channel, where we take culture, TV, movie, news, and politics and filter it to you in a conservative manner, in other words, filter it to you right, then please click the like and subscribe button and that bell icon so you don't miss any future content. And also, if you want to help support this channel, there's a join button there so you can click that and find out how to do just that. And as always, please check out some content that we have right